Hello guys. So in this video we will see how function works in Python. So there are some cases where you want some set of statements that should be repeated. Say for example, you have some 5 statements, okay, which is repeated multiple times in your code or across the code. So in that case, what happens if same thing you're re-repeating and writing, then there is case of redundancy. So in order to overcome that, what you can do is you can create a function. So a function is nothing but you will be creating a particular block. In that block you keep adding codes or the statements, and then whenever you want to execute that, you can call that function. So that is the advantage of having function in any programming language. So here we'll see how do we write function in Python. So to start with, to create a function, you have to prefix with the word def. Okay, so there's nothing but definition where you're defining a function, def. Okay, followed by the function name. So I will say example, the function name is greeting. Okay, and then you have to give parenthesis. So parenthesis means that this is a function, and then to write code you have to give indentation, right? And this function will say hello there. Okay, so this is the function what we have created right now. Now to execute this function, what I have to do is I have to just call the function by giving the function name. So I have to give the function name and execute. So what happens, it's indirectly saying that I'm calling a block of code, or there are some set of statements written in within a block called greeting, and from there I'm getting this hello there, and that is how it is getting printed. So now whenever you want to print those statements, like say for example, you are writing statement 1, you are doing some set of works, okay, here, and then later you want to greet. So all you can do is just call the function and the work is done. So rather than you writing this everywhere, you can place this in a function and call it wherever you want. So this is example of a very simple functions. So now there are various types of functions that we can see. Now we have a function where we pass parameters or arguments. So we have function with parameter or arguments, we call it arguments. Okay, argument. So we call it a function with parameters or arguments. And we have function with return type. So a function will return you some value in, okay, while you are calling that function. So we'll see both of this function. So first example is you are giving some input to the function. Say for example, same function, if I write greeting, and here I will pass one value that will be a name in string. So that name and string will come and be stored in this particular variable called as name. So here I will say print hello, and then I will print the name, right? So now oops, I've done some small mistake. Yeah, so now if I call this function and I have to pass a name, so I'm going to pass a string. So see, I'm calling a function and I'm passing an parameter or argument. So you can see it displays that hello Aman. You can see here that clearly, right? Now it's not compulsory that I have to pass only that type. I can give anything. I can give a name here, so you see it gets hello Ram. Now the difference is here I have created a function saying that I will have only one input that is coming. So if I try to pass two inputs, so it is going to give me an error because my function is accepting or ready to take only one input and it can only store one input. But here I'm trying to pass two inputs, which is not going to get stored there. So that is why you get this X error, and you should always be careful while creating this. You have to add two different, so I can say name2, and then I can say name1 and name2. So now if I rerun this, it is going to work because it is accepting two parameters. So you have to make sure the number of parameters you're giving and the number of variables here should be the same. So this is the first type where you see function with parameters or arguments. Now let us look at the second type, that is function with return type. So how does function with return types work? So basically when you call a function, it will return you some value. Let us look at some example. So I'll say def, and then here I'm going to say for example greet, okay, and this function will return me hi. Okay, So I have written a function which whenever I call will return me a string called as hi. Now you can write some logics here, codes to get some data, manipulate, perform some operation, and then return the result and so on. You can do that also. So here in simple case, I'm just showing that this function on call, it returns a value called hi. So you have to prefix it with the keyword return. So now whenever I call create, it will return me hi. And if I have to store this somewhere, so I have to create a variable. So I'll say res, that is result. So my res will be hi. So whenever I call this function, it will return me some value. So this is about your functions in Python. Now there are more advanced concepts in Python where, now say for example here you are writing a program to add two numbers. So you're gonna say addition num1. So you will write here num1 and then you will write here num2 and then you will return num1 plus num2. So this code, this function basically returns addition of two number. So if I say s is equals to addition of 5 comma 6, so it is going to return me s, that is 11. Now very important, if I say to write a function to add three numbers, so you will, you may copy paste here and you might just change this to addition underscore 3, so that you will say to three numbers, then I will call underscore 3 and I will pass three numbers. That is how addition works. Oops, I did not change here, num3, and I'll say here plus num3. So now if I rerun this, you can see some of it, but this is not possible for n number of cases, where if I want to write program to add four numbers, five numbers, so you cannot create multiple functions here, right? You will have redundancy. So in that case, what happens, you can create one function and then you can create a single variable which will store all this value as a list. So for that you just have to add an asterisk here. So once you add an asterisk here, so no matter how much ever input you send here, let it be 1 or let it be 100, that is being going to store here as a tuple. So in that tuple, then finally I can say return sum of that variable num. So now if I do the same thing, you can see I get 17. And same way, if I pass multiple numbers here, I'm passing multiple numbers, and if I run this again, oops, oh sorry, there is no addition 3, it is addition. So now if I run this, so you see it is going to return me sum of all this. So in such cases where you have multiple inputs where you don't know the exact count, then you can use this asterisk, right? So these are few important function concepts in your Python.